Thank
All
you.
right, here's our six pack. Let's get into it. And of course, our guest is Glenn Hughes. So the topic is our six favorite albums that Glenn Hughes was a part of. And Glenn has been a part of a lot of records and a lot of different bands. He even played bass only on a Joe Satriani record. So you can really go in a lot of directions with this. Very, very varied career, but this should be interesting to see what we come up with. So let's get it started.
Yeah, this is tough, man, just going through his history. But my number six is Black Sabbath's Seventh Star.
Wow.
It was supposed to be an only solo record, and the label at the last minute wanted to slap Sabbath's name on it, try to sell more copies and stuff. But I like this one. You know, Ozzy was obviously out of the band and all that weird stuff going on, but Glenn on vocals, yeah, this is a good album, Seventh Star. This is probably the best one that doesn't have Ozzy or Dio on it. My favorite one.
All right. My number six, I believe, if I'm next, is Trapeze. You Are the Music, We Are Just the Band. You know, this goes back, this is 72, this album came out. And, you know, I talked to Glenn about this album a lot, especially when I was out on the road with them with the Dead Daisies in 2021. And when we played down in Texas, you know, Glenn was very, it really brought back a lot of memories because he said Trapeze was big in Texas. And that was really where he got his first fan base started in the States, was with the band Trapeze. And, you know, again, this is a very classic 70s sounding album. Some beautiful guitar work in there. You know, you could tell Glenn's voice, not quite the voice of rock that we know yet, but it was on its way. And it's a great album. If you want to really get back to his roots, you should check this one out.
All right. Well, what I did, I took a similar approach. I forget who I did this with on an earlier show.
Sammy Hagar.
I did a different Glenn band project on each of my six.
Yeah.
So my number six is the Dead Daisies. The first record that Glenn did with the band he just left. Actually, he did two albums with them. But the first album was called Holy Ground. It came out, I think, in 2001. 2021. It's a recent record. Yeah. But it's a super heavy record, I think. Great riffs. Dead Daisies, Doug Aldrich is the guitar player, great player. And I just thought that him and Glenn together was just, I mean, they worked together when Glenn went out and did Purple shows for a little while. Doug played with them. I just thought that combination of the two of them together again was great. Glenn wrote and sings the whole record and wrote most of it. And I just think it's a killer album that maybe got a little overlooked, his first with that band. So that's my number six.
All right, my number five, I wanted to pick out at least one Black Country Communion record. So I took the second one. Out of the four, I think they got a fifth one they're working on or whatever. But yeah, this one is my favorite out of the ones that they released. So that's my number five.
All right, my number five is. Oh,
I forgot about that record. Oh, I love that record. I had them in my studio. I totally forgot. Damn it.
California Breed. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, this is a really good record. So it's and that's the other thing, Ed. I was with you, so I got Glenn in a trio, which is, California Breed. I got him in a 5-piece band, a 4-piece band. So California Breed, of course, was with Jason Bonham and Andrew Watt, who I think most people now know from producing and playing on the last few Ozzy albums. But yeah, this is a great. This album really rocks, man. So if you haven't. Have you even heard of it? Check it out. California Breed. They only did one record together.
Yes, totally forgot about that record. Love that record. Jason Bonham, Andrew Watt has become this huge pop and rock producer since that record was made. I had them in my studio. I got pictures with them. Dave Cobb produced it. Love that record. I saw him live a couple times. And then Jason left and they did some shows. I think another drummer came in. I forget who it was.
Joey
but then they just fell apart after one record, but man, that is a great record. Don, I spaced on that, man. I'm glad you got that in.
Yeah.
All right, my number five, which obviously won't be California Breed because I forgot, is Glenn's solo record called Resonate. And again, that record's around 2016, and that was Glenn. Glenn has a lot of different sides to him. He does funk, he does rock, he does. You can do bluesy stuff. You can do all kinds of stuff, hard rock, stuff that borders on metal, certainly. Resonate was him in more of a rock skin, I think. And I just, he's got so many records and so many solo records, but that was one that I really liked when it came out. So for the Glenn solo stuff, that was my pick to include, and that was number 5.
My number 4 is number 4 is the Iommi solo record Fused. This thing got completely lost in the mix. I remember when it came out, I'm like, God damn. I was like, man, Iommi used up so many good riffs on this because I was hoping for a Sabbath reunion at that time, but it didn't happen. It was always blowing up every week or whatever. But this one, Iommi with Glenn Hughes on, it's a solo Iommi, not a Sabbath thing, but Iommi Fused is great songs on this.
Does Glenn sing on that whole album or just Glenn?
Yeah.
And Kenny Aronoff plays drums.
Yeah. My number 4 is whatever comes up. Oh, Resonate. So, of course, I have it on beautiful purple vinyl. And Ed, so Ed, you alluded to it. It's definitely more of a heavier rock album. He got signed to Frontiers, and that's what they asked him for. And this is what came of it. Resonate even wrote a song on there called Heavy. And it's a great one. And you see Glenn with the short coiffed hair. It's much longer now, but top to bottom, great album.
All right. My number 4 is I'm with you, Jim, the 7th Star album from Sabbath. That album, I mean, No Stranger to Love, a tremendous song. There's great stuff on there. I mean, yes, Sabbath in name, but it's still Iommi. It's still the riffs. Glenn's voice with those riffs is just incredible to me. And obviously a really rough period for Glenn. If people know the story, he was really struggling with drugs and his weight and all sorts of stuff at that time. They tried to go out on the road with him for that record. He started the tour, but it ended very badly. I saw him struggle through a show at the Meadowlands, which is legend for not good reasons. But that all being said, that record, I think, has some great stuff on it. And I put that as my number 4.
My number 3 is a one-off album, Use Thrall.
Oh, I forgot that too.
I remember it came out in 1982. I was, buying every hard rock metal record.
Yeah.
And I remember this because I remember Pat Thrall doing something. I knew Glenn Hughes, obviously, from Deep Purple, and Pat Thrall did something before it. I think that's what it was. And I remember this came out, and I'm pretty sure there was a video on MTV, possibly, but it's really commercial.
Muscle and Blood.
Okay, yeah. It's not like super heavy. It's really commercial. That was the music at the time, and I really like it. It's really catchy, a lot of the songs. So
and you know who plays drums on a lot of that record?
Who?
Frankie Banali.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really good.
All right, my number 3 is going to be Dead Daisies' Holy Ground, which was Eddie's number 6. And I toured with these guys, opened for them in the States on this album. Both albums that Glenn did with the Dead Daisies are really amazing. This one just ekes it out just by a hair because the final track called Far Away is a real epic way to end the album. And so I just give this a little bit more weight because of that, but both albums are great. Radiance being the second one, but that's my number 3.
Whose is it now?
Eddie.
You.
Oh, all right. So my number 3, I could have went with any of the Black Country Communion records. I agree with, I think it was Jim, whoever had the second one up there. But I'm just going with the first as my BCC representation. That is the first time I heard that record, my mind was blown. I mean, Joe Bonamassa, Derek Sherinian, Jason Bonham, and of course Glenn on bass and vocals. And if you guys don't know the Black Country stuff, I mean, unfortunately they don't tour that much because Joe Bonamassa's solo career is so big. But I have had a chance to see him live a couple times, and they're just incredible. And I had Bonamassa on my radio show 2 days ago in LA, and he was going to the studio to meet with Glenn, and they're just finishing up what'll be a 5th record that they'll probably get out sometime next year. So I'm glad that band is still doing stuff from time to time when they can all do it. And my number 3 was where it all started with the debut album.
All right, my number 2 is the second Deep Purple album he did with the guys. I don't know what that noise is, but...
Hey, Joe, mute my mic.
The Deep Purple Stormbringer album. The follow-up to Burn, but the one right before Come Taste the Band, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but this is a great record. Glenn, David Coverdale, and the other guys in Deep Purple. So that's my number 2.
All right.
All right.
Let's see if Don's landscapers are still there.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. So my number 2, again, they're all great. All the Black Country Communion albums are great. I mean, it was tough. His vocal performance on The Great Divide on the first one is absolutely insane. I don't know why. I found myself going to this one as my go-to more than the other ones, but I could have picked any of them at random and it would have worked. So that's my number 2. And now you can mute me again.
My number 2 is Jim had this earlier. If you guys don't know this record, this is so heavy, this record. Tony, monster riffs. I mean, it could have, the way Seventh Star could have been billed as a Sabbath record, this easily could have been billed as a Sabbath record. There's a song, I think it's the opening track, Dopamine. It's just so heavy. Obviously, it's Iommi, it's Hughes, and it's Kenny Aronoff on drums. It came out on an independent label at the time. It didn't get a ton of promotion, but it's a record I always go to. In a way, I told Glenn this, like some of the stuff on the Dead Daisies actually reminded me a little bit of what he did on this record. So I love the Fused album, and it's my number 2.
All right, my number 1 is obvious, the Deep Purple Burn record, first album he did with Deep Purple, Coverdale and the band, Ian Gillan out of there. But yeah, I mean, just a classic. And Glenn's doing a whole tour celebrating the record. So Deep Purple Burn is my number 1.
Unmute Don. We got to unmute Don.
Number 1, Burn, signed by the man himself. I don't think Glenn has maybe played a show since this album that came out without playing Burn at the end. That's such a signature song. And then in recent years, the song Mistreated has been the middle piece of the set. And if you never saw Glenn sing Mistreated, it's mind-blowing. Mute me.
And we're going to make it an even clean sweep at number 1. It's the album that Glenn's going out touring to celebrate 50 years. It's his first record with Purple. It was the first time anybody heard of an unknown guy named David Coverdale. And when you think about a band like Deep Purple, as legendary as they were at that point, needing to replace their lead singer and their bass player, and doing it, one with a totally unknown guy in Coverdale, and making a record that great, and having the audience come along with him. Remember, it wasn't like it is now with lineup changes. It's catastrophic if a band lost a member, let alone 2. And the fact that they just made that record and the fans loved it and the whole different era of Purple was launched is just remarkable. And the record still holds up today. And I'm glad Glenn's going out and paying tribute to it by doing shows that we're going to talk about with him in just a couple minutes.
All right. That's our 6-pack.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Don. Thanks for watching that clip. If you'd like to see more stuff like that, check out these clips right here. And hey, why not join up, become a member, hit that join button, and you'll get access to exclusive content.